make sure I grab the right mixer here. I was about to turn down my microphone instead of the background sound. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Effing Growth live stream. Mixer here. I was about to turn down my microphone instead of the background sound.
I have.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another with the live stream. That was weird. Sorry, I had a tab open on my other computer with the live stream apparently, and so we get a little loop there anyway. What's up? So today we're going to talk about measuring what matters, and we're going to see whether the title matters. This was like a two-way experiment for us. So we always have Webflow in the title. We always talk specifically about web design or how to grow your web design business, whatever. So we want to start experimenting a little bit with our titles and see, does that impact the overall performance of the stream? So this was a test for us to see if the title matters on a stream. And we figured as we test that, we will also have a conversation about how to measure the things that matter in your business as you grow, in all the things we like to talk about, Webflow, freelancing, etc. So, but before we get too far into this thing, let's have and grow. Okay, what's up, Joe? It's been a minute since we had a misfire on the open like that, huh?
It has. And I think it was a little bit after the opener where you didn't actually mess up on the opener. Yeah. We'll call that an in-show mess up.
Okay, we'll chalk that up as a technical glitch. What's up, Joe? Any thoughts before we get started in here?
I'm excited for this one. We're really going to talk about a lot of things that can be measured and can't be measured, and why we may want to measure them. It's so sad to see new people in the industry measuring the wrong things or worrying about the wrong things. And sometimes that really ruins people's growth. So yeah, it's an important topic. It's a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Our audience prompt today is, what do you all measure? So we'll jump ahead of that. But before we do that, let's look at who's in the chat with us today. Lucas Machado's in the house. Rahul, hello. Ferdy is here. Maria, hello. Dale Jensen, back after being away. I was going to say, I hadn't seen Dale in the comments for a while, so good to see you back. Aida's here. John Matias, hello. Tanette is in the house. Dylan Spencer from Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, remember, let us know where you're watching from. We always like to see where the folks are from. Maggie's in the house. Hello, Zach. Daniel Brosnio, Robert, what's up? Harsh, Spencer, Gabe, Sean. Let's see, I'm probably too far down the list. No, Darren, you're perfect, right in time. Omkar, hello. Spencer, so nice he said it twice. Yeah, we got that little loop back effect there. Penny, hello. Bashar, Slawek, hello. Josh, Tom, what's up, everyone? Okay. Leave your thoughts in the comments as we go. These conversations are always very, driven by the real-time chat. So we have a couple quick little announcements, right? Let's do that real quick because this one's key. The Effin' Pro pricing goes up today. Today is like the last day you can get this lifetime pricing at $299. We may bring lifetime back at some point. It will not be at $299, so this might be like a Black Friday kind of thing or a once in a blue moon. We may pop like a lifetime option, but it's going to be significantly more expensive than this the next time we do it. And this $79 a month is going to go to $99 a month, or I'm sorry, annually. So $99 annually. And that price will also continue to go up. So if you're looking to lock in some of the value, if you see yourself using Webflow moving forward for a while, if you are finding value in the stuff that we've done at Finsweet for a while, lock that pricing in now. Otherwise, you're just at the mercy of whatever the market says moving forward. So any thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, double down on locking in that price. If you sign up at the $79 annually, you will always be on $79 annually. Even if we raise it to $500 annually, you will maintain the $79 annually. So the lock-in price is expensive.
Are we doing that? But, okay, so the $79 will just be your price forever.
I'm very serious on the grandfathered pricing.
Hey,
absolutely, that's a really serious thing for me. I've used Webflow for so long. Some of my old client sites are on grandfathered pricing, and it's $10 a month for hosting. Yeah, I think if you agree to something for an annual rate, you're locked into that.
Great.
So lock it in now.
It's funny because I had to fight Joe for next to 30 days of the lifetime pricing, just so you know out there, okay? Joe wanted to do the lifetime pricing for 30 days, and I was like, no, actually, I wanted to do 90 days, and he was like, no, not crazy, 30 days, and I was like, okay, well, let's do 60. So we settled on 60, and so it's funny to see that, yeah, your pro lock in the price. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting thought. I like that. Okay, so lock it in.
Yep.
Honestly, you're not going to get a better deal. I promise you, in a year or two, you're going to look back and be like, shit, I should have bought it. Especially
How many people do we have?
We're over 300.
Wow.
We're over 300 now. So it is,
Okay.
and going up quickly.
Yep.
So, okay.
Great.
Next quick little announcements. We did this little Webflowers Got Talent. Melissa, you don't know this yet, and neither does Colleen, but I had these vibes from this event where, like, what if we mixed this Webflowers Got Talent with the show and tell event? We were talking about doing them as separate, but as I was like watching it back, I was like, this could be like, we could make show and tell cooler if we blended the Webflowers Got Talent with the show and tell event. So we were thinking they're going to be separate, but I don't know. Joe, did you have any thoughts watching that? It was cool. Going back, had some critique vibes.
Yeah.
You know, it was fun to go through and just in real time. We didn't have a script. We just ran through the showcase and looked at stuff. I'd recommend, you know, go watch the video. It was a lot of fun. Joe, did you have any thoughts? Did you go back and see any of that?
I did. I was there live for
That's right.
probably
You were live for a
45
while.
minutes. Yeah. And it's a really great initiative. I think it's very relaxing. You know, you could be working on something else. You could be going on with your day and have this on the side. You get a little bit of inspiration. Maybe you get some ideas for the project that you're working on. So yeah, I love the interaction. I love doing this type of event. And yeah, I think it has a good future.
Yeah. Yeah, and in case you missed it, the live scoring was fun too. We brought that back from critique. So we were looking at these sites and then scoring them live, as well as audience scores in real time. So that's lots of fun. Leave thoughts in the comments. Anytime we experiment with stuff like that, we're anxious to know whether you like it, whether you want more, or whether we need to kind of redirect our attention stuff. So anyway, Webflowers Got Talent was a cool stream. We will probably do that based on feedback and general, just audience response there. So, Joe, do you want to talk about this one? This is going to be a lot of fun coming up this Friday.
Yes, product update. We're going to be doing a product update stream the first Friday of every month. And what this means is we will tell you what we have shipped, what great updates we've made to our products, and what we are working on, what we expect to ship in the next month. And we're going to have Alex here. So Alex will be joining us, leading the product updates, because he leads our product updates internally.
Yep.
So he's going to get here, answer questions. It's going to be really, really interactive. Very cool.
Yeah.
And very casual too.
Yep.
Right? This is going to be a fun, relaxing type update session.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all have asked us a number of times to dive deeper into technical stuff, how we do some of what we do, where we're headed with the product, to bring Alex onto the show, just to maybe kind of put him on center stage, or just to maybe even start showcasing the value of Webflow as a product to developers. So a lot of times we go into the no-code stuff. We're all about, the visual software development side of things, but there's still a lot of interesting things that are happening in this space that are tied to high code, to full code, to hardcore code, if you will. And so bringing that stuff front and center, I think, will be a good conversation. It'll be a change of speed for us, and that'll be fun to just do. That's going to be the first Friday of every month. So set that on your calendar. Again, if you're a pro, you should have that in the calendar as well. But the first Friday of every month, we will have Alex on the show to do that. And we'll start planning some other technical stuff. We've had people ask us about like reverse proxy servers and different things as it relates to the technical side of Webflow that we can also dive into. So I think that's it. We do have one important question, but we're going to save that towards the end of the show. So a little cliffhanger here. We have something super serious we need to ask the community today, and we're going to leave that towards the end of the show. So stick with us for just some of that. So, all right, let's get into it. Joe, you want to take the first disclaimer? We always start these with disclaimers for anybody who hasn't maybe watched us. I don't know who you are if you haven't watched this episode before, but we're here every Tuesday and Thursday, Joe, and we start with the disclaimer. So number one,
we are not productivity experts. We'll be talking about reporting numbers, productivity, being effective at work, but we are not experts at this. However, I like to think that we are productive and effective and efficient at what we do. And also, neither of us are inclined to measure a lot of things.
Correct.
I know myself personally, I just don't like to count numbers and really focus on measuring really specific things. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just part of the disclaimers that this is not, something we're expert in. We don't. Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing. Part of what we like about this stream is that we show you the real side of us. And sometimes we do things by the book and sometimes we don't. I think the disclaimer number 2 is a perfect transition, is that we're working in an emerging industry and there's really no roadmaps or rules to how this stuff goes, right? So you'll see one of the first things we're going to look at is kind of like the trendy lingo in this productivity space. And then we're going to throw that right out the door. So, it's good to have systems. It's good to have ideas, but we're working in a field that's really adapting and changing in real time. And so you would do well to learn how to be flexible and to really, you got to have some goalposts that you're headed towards, but you got to stay flexible. You got to be willing to move. We've talked about not being able to adapt in this space and how that will break things, and why, being a little more flexible when you're dealing with tech is better than being super rigid. And so, just don't get lost looking for the perfect system. We say this all the time. Just find what works for you, right? So if that's one thing that you keep your eye on and you're like, hey, this is the only number that kind of matters for me, that's cool. If it's 2 things, if it's 5 things, if you want to build a whole dashboard for your systems and you get obsessed over some of those metrics, cool. That's perfect for you. And so that's the fun of it. And so that's what we're going to ask you as the audience prompt, is like, what do you like to measure? Right? What matters for you as you're going through this stuff, as you're building your business, do you have a dashboard that you look at daily? Do you have some kind of, I don't know, like what is it? What is it that you have that you measure? That's the prompt for today before we get further into this. Joe, anything else in the disclaimers before we move over into the actual meat of it?
I'll add to the audience prompt that you can also share personal things.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking a lot about the business side, what we measure in business, but also there's things that you can measure in your personal life. So really this audience prompt is very open. Anything that you measure to keep yourself productive, happy, efficient, whatever.
Yep. Nice.
Great.
Okay.
All right, let's get into it.
Right. Briona, hi from Croatia. Nice. First time here. We always like to say hi to the first times here. Sorry. So Terry, hello. And what's up? Just grabbed a lifetime access. Great. That's what we like to see. I've gone pro, no brainer. Perfect. Just locked in lifetime 5 minutes ago. Love to see that. Locked in and loving it. Great. How many lifetime members do we have? That's a good question. Let me check this list right here. Okay, so we have, on the F and Pro list, there's 508. That has to include some that are not. I think maybe we've had it. 389 is what this is saying. Nice. 389 total Pro, and then 170 lifetime. Okay. Yeah, so those are good numbers.
Cool. Great.
Just became lifetime pro. Didn't know I was over after today. Jumped on my credit card. You can lock it in. I'm telling you, even if you got to pay it off over a couple of months or something like that, it's going to be better than having to buy it later in 5 months when you really, know that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get into it, Joe. There's some stuff in here. Let's get into it. We got some good questions we'll come back to. So we're going to start with KPIs, OKRs, and what the books, the WTFs. There's a lot of trendy lingo in this productivity space right now, right? I mean, do you pay any attention to that? Do you look at any of this stuff? Like, what have you thought as we go into this kind of, because I know you're not one, you said it in the disclaimer, you're not one to like look super tight at this kind of stuff. I think I'm not one either. We'll talk about some personal examples a little bit later, but what are your thoughts as you see all these folks running around talking about buzzwords and trends and, this thing, and people get obsessed with this, kind of like even, like some vegan diet stuff or some fad diet stuff or some whatever it is. And then they get real, when you find a system like this and it works for you, you're like, okay, now I gotta go tell everyone. So what are you thinking as you see this stuff kind of percolate around the space?
Well, I'll start in my early days of Finsweet, first starting in Webflow, first starting in the industry. I had no idea what these words meant. KPI, OKR, no idea. I have always considered myself somebody that is business inclined, good with business, but these words and these concepts meant nothing to me. So from the very early days of Finsweet, this was not a focus because it wasn't something that was introduced to me. So yeah, I can't even think of a single KPI that we even follow today at Finsweet that's really specific, that we really, really focus on. Like, hey, this is the number that we want to hit, or this is the thing that we really need to improve and see the growth in. So overall, it's not really something that I look at. Maybe on a monthly or a yearly basis to say, oh, this is how we've grown over the last year or two, but definitely not on a daily, weekly, or probably not even monthly basis.
Yeah, this is an interesting comment here, right in line with what you're saying, Joe. Saying, John saying, "Hi guys, I measure all sorts of things, but usually I just check the bank account and calendar.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to do today, and is there money in the bank to do it? You know."
Yep, that's me.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, Zach is saying MRR and retention is king. I would be interesting, Zach, you have a reoccurring model. You have some different client models. So I'd be interested to know, because we're going to talk a little bit about MRR here. So that will be interesting. Tori is saying, I like to measure my focus time. So the amount of time spent focusing. We have a list here coming up of like different things that you might be interested in measuring, or that might be good to measure. And then Daniel's got the only reminder that matters here is hit that like button. We will revoke your F and Pro membership if we find out you're not liking these videos regularly. Just saying. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
What about you? KPIs.
I don't. None of this is for me, just so you know.
Yeah.
But I did want to bring it up because so many people are talking about it. So here's what we'll do. Let me show the screen. Let's talk a little bit about what KPIs actually are, what OKRs actually are. And I do think this is important. And this is like some clever person just kind of diluted down this process and was like, here's a name that we can put on it, and it's a clever process, and it became a thing, right? This is how this stuff works. But at the bare levels, we're talking about key performance indicators are basically standalone metrics, right? They tell you what a measure is good or bad. So a key performance indicator could just be revenue, right? So, hey, there's money. But in what relation, right? In what relation does that revenue metric matter, right? So is it money compared to last month's money? Is it money compared to your annual goal? Is it money compared to, what you did this same month last year, right? So having like the KPI is a number, but what it's saying here is that it doesn't really communicate context or what direction you need to go. It's just kind of a data point. The OKRs, which came around, objectives and key results, in case you don't know, provide much needed direction and context, right? So now it's kind of giving that KPI a little bit of, structure or like direction. So the objective describes what you want to accomplish, and the key results describe how you're making progress. So that keep, outlining that objective, and then it shows you behavior that you should be doing to hit that objective. And again, this just kind of boils down to the basics, and you have to find what matters for you, right? So if you're somebody that gets down on systems and loves the lingo and needs processes and maybe is not super, capable of just finding some of these things kind of at a gut level, which I think maybe Joe and I are maybe a little more natural at. But that doesn't mean that, this is bad, following one system or another. So this description, this article's in the description. And if it's not, maybe Victoria, we can get it in there. But yeah, this is in there. This is interesting to read. Again, I don't spend a lot of time on this. Joe doesn't spend a lot of time on this. But this is something that could be good. And we do have goals, right? So there are goals. There are, objectives. We just don't, use a lot of buzz terms. So we wanted to kind of get that out of the way and talk a little bit about what people are using as terminology. Anything in there, Joe, that sparks your fancy or that you want to talk a little bit about before we kind of phase shift?
Well, I like that you said it's not for us, but that doesn't mean it's not for you, right? You can look at that KPI and OKR article and say, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what's going to keep me in line following my goals. So remember, we're talking from our experience, what we do, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody.
Yeah, it also becomes one of those things that like you may have to expand as you grow. I think that maybe as Finsweet evolves into another layer, we may need to get more serious about some of this. And I don't think we're closed off to any of that. I think it's just also one of those things that we throw a lot of other procedural stuff kind of out of the window in kind of skewing towards moving fast, right? We'd rather iterate quickly. We'd rather move a little faster. And so a lot of these systems are really designed when you have to manage bigger teams, when you have big goals that cross departments and you need something to kind of help align all of those different layers. Spencer makes a really good point here in relationship to this. Spencer is saying, honestly, knowing these terms and using them in conversations with your bigger corporate prospects is critically important for landing bigger jobs. I talk to a friend of mine actually about this all the time because he's building some software and he's out there talking and marketing the software. And sometimes when I hear him talking, I'm like, yo, you don't sound credible. And I know you're credible, but you don't have the lingo. You need to have the modern language, right? You need to know that no code doesn't mean we're not using code. You need to know that that's a moniker for this whole industry that's kind of evolving here. Same thing with this, right? You don't necessarily need to be, hold up. You don't necessarily need to be, like a systems freak, but you kind of need to understand these things because maybe your client's going to use them or maybe they're going to expect you to use them, especially if you're on a marketing side of things or you're doing anything related to marketing, which is often involved with the website stuff. And for those who don't know, I wanted to finish this thought, but we hit the horn when we hit 100 concurrent viewers. So if you're new with us, we hit the horn at every 100 concurrent viewers. So Joe, any thoughts there on the on this here on using it, knowing the language, kind of speaking the talk of the day, even if you're not necessarily using these systems?
Of course. If you're talking to a client and the client says, hey, one of our goals for the website is this KPI, it's not good to say, hey, what's a KPI? You should say, oh, great, perfect. We can do that. We know exactly how to optimize for this action. So yeah, understanding these words is important. That doesn't mean you have to use them, but that means you should know them. Yeah. And I also like your comment about, Finsweet will have to understand these and will have to use these moving forward. I think they're really for bigger companies, companies that have to see a lot of different areas. And really what I want is to bring somebody on that only worries about that. Yeah. Right. Their job at Finsweet is just to do all of this type of reporting.
This is an interesting thing to point to because I think people see Finsweet right now and maybe they think, oh, it's a big operation because they're used to seeing operations that do the type of things we're doing as big operations. But we operate as like a bunch of little sniper teams here at Finsweet. We're not like a huge team that's like moving as a big unit. We're a bunch of small units that are doing a lot of cool things together, all pulling in the same direction. And I think in that regard, the teams each are very autonomous and they have a lot of flexibility to do things how they see best to be done. And there's not a lot of upper management. There's not a lot of people that you need to report to. There's not, we don't have monthly TPS meetings where we're looking at our TPS reports and talking about all these OKRs and KPIs because the teams just don't work like that. And so I don't know. It depends. Again, it goes back to what you need. So if your business needs, some of the structure, or maybe I could imagine, Joe, if you had a different personality type and you were kind of more of a number crunching, spreadsheet kind of guy and were like that as a top down person, I would imagine there would be a lot more of these systems around as well. So I think a lot of these systems come from the top down. And again, that doesn't mean you have to use a certain thing to be successful, or because you see one person using one system and another person using another system, that they're going to be successful in different metrics because of the systems. It's not the systems, y'all. Okay. It's the folks doing the work. It's the way you work together. It's the mindset of the people doing that work. And it's the chemistry between that. It's that culture. Right. And so sometimes that culture needs to be very rigid and very focused on objectives and key results, or, you can be a little more free floating and autonomous. So, but that's a good point, Spencer. That's a really good point. Penny, when I mention KPIs, most of our clients have no idea what I'm talking about. So there's the other side of that whole debate, is that sometimes you can be talking right over people. So, but maybe that's a good opportunity, Penny, to become the consultant and share something with a business that, that helps them. So nice. Okay. So basically all that's to boil down to, it just, comes down to measuring what matters to you. It's super simple. Here's another, KPIs, OKRs, and KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Like we all get the, KISS analogy once or twice in our business life. And a lot of times we tend to complicate things, but, usually keeping it simple is key. So.
Yes. Keeping it simple, measuring what matters to you. That's the important message here. Not what's important to other businesses of other sizes, of different people. What's important to you? Is money important? Is the amount of hours you work per day important? Is the amount of time you spend with your family per day important? What's that important value? And that's really what matters. So that answer is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Some people, a bunch of people may say revenue, but I bet there's half the people in this chat here that maybe revenue is not their top answer. So you really have to look inside and understand what that is for you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there was a time where I didn't really, I wasn't watching revenue numbers because I didn't have enough revenue to have revenue numbers. I just knew I needed to land a client sometime in the next month to make it to another month. And what I would measure, okay, so real talk, I would look at how many months I had left. Right? So there were points in my where my only KPI or my only OKR or the only thing that mattered to me was okay, how many months do I have? I have a month. Okay, I have I'm down to a week, or I have 6 months, right? And that's it. Because I knew I just wanted to go do this thing. I didn't really know what this thing was. I didn't know what it fully looked like. I didn't know what it would take to get there. I just knew there were activities that I could take to kind of move in that direction. And some of those were learning Webflow. Some of those were reworking some of my design skills and maybe learning some new tools and then finding clients and finding ways to network. And I knew I was doing some of these things effectively and I had the skills inside of me, but I didn't have revenue to measure. I didn't have leads to measure. I didn't have all these typical things that you might measure. I just knew hey, there's enough money in the bank for you to keep doing this for another month. And I went. And that's it. That's the only number that mattered. So I think sometimes it's just got to be that, especially when you're starting out or trying to break into the space.
Yeah. And for Finsweet, our official measure of what matters is the amount of money in our bank account. Mm-hmm. It's been like that since day one. How much money do we have in our bank? And can we do what we want to do in the next year? And it's been a yes for almost 7 years now. But that's as far as I go for getting these numbers and identifying how successful the business is in terms of money, in terms of revenue. We're going to talk about other ways to measure success, which I'm much more interested in. But when we get to the money side, it's how much is in the bank. Can we do what we need to do?
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
It's very simple, and we have over 40 people at the company. We have a lot of things going on. The payroll is very high, but really it comes down to, do we have the money to continue operating?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that they're going to adapt and change for the stage of the business, what you're trying to do specifically. There may be certain things where you need to look at the money a little more closely. Where you need to look at maybe one specific metric, maybe page views to your homepage, right? If it's a marketing campaign. So let's make this shift. Let's look at some examples of things you might want to measure, things that might matter to your business. And we've heard a couple of these already. So if you haven't, share in the comments if you're watching now, or even in the future, leave your thoughts in the comments. Just what are the things that you think might matter? Do we mention? Are some of your items on the list, or do we miss anything? So there's hours spent being productive. Maybe that's all you want to measure, right? How many hours are you going to do this task or work on a specific project or learn a specific goal? Maybe it's just learning the guitar. So you need to set a clock for 30 minutes and you got to pick up that guitar and play for 30 minutes. Okay. The next question to be asked there is that time actually spent effective practice, or are you just strumming awkwardly, right? So there's a difference if you want to learn Webflow and you're just going to sit there and go dink around in the designer, or are you going to watch a video and try to accomplish a very specific task, right? So, just because you're tracking time or spending time doesn't mean you're actually doing it, but I digress. You could track inbound leads. You could track the number of proposals or statements of work that you send, the number of deals you closed. We've talked about MRR, ARR. Joe, I know you want to talk about that a little bit. You may want to track your average deal size. So are you selling websites for $5,000 now, and a week or a month ago or years ago you were selling for $500 a month? That could be an interesting metric to track. So Joe, can you think of any other things we might want to track as we're going here? And then in the audience, let us know if we missed anything or if any of these strike close to home for you.
Yeah, I like to track how happy I am. And this is not something that has numbers attached to it. This is something that you feel. So we can also track things just based on how we feel and how we think about something. When I think of am I happy, I'm thinking of am I happy today? Was I happy last week? Was I happy last month? When I look back at last year, am I more or less happy than what I was? And if I find that I continue to go less and less happy, that's not a good thing. So I don't think that tracking only has to be numbers. I played guitar for 4 hours today, and now I have this metric. I can say, well, was I happy today? Yes, I was really happy because I got to play the guitar today. And this really made my day. And then looking back last year, oh wow, I didn't know how to play guitar at all, and now I have my first show. So I am so happy about this. And that is something that I think you can track without numbers. So we can talk more about that. If you have questions about that, I can answer them. But that's that's something that I really look at. It's something that I really identify and I try to really improve on.
Yeah. Well, if we talked about previous episodes where I think the ability to be in 100% control of your time is what I consider real wealth, you know? And I don't just mean the ability to work or not work. I mean the ability to, if you want to travel, to be able to go travel. The ability that if you want to go do a specific thing or test an idea or validate a concept, that you have the ability to do that. That's, to me, that's ultimate wealth, right? Is the, like, we've talked about this before, that money in my life has been one of the only things that's ever told me no, you know, especially growing up with not a lot of means and resources. You want to do a certain things. You want to join a program, you know, you want to go try the travel sports league. Well, we don't have the money for the team or the league or whatever, so we can go play in the local sports program. And you know, like, okay, so those are restrictions on life. But yeah, when you're talking about measuring happiness, I don't really know how to measure happiness other than that. So for me, that's the only measurement of happiness that I have is, am I in control of my time? You know, and so I don't know. That's interesting to think about. Joe threw that on the list. I was going down all these like specific things. I was like, we could measure, you know, the number of deals over the number of times. So are we doing more deals next month than last month, or number of email signups per landing page, or number of new users for this experimental software we're getting? And he's like, yeah, but what about happiness? And I'm like, okay, yeah, but how do you measure that? And so that it's interesting to think about that, because I think that's one of the appealing things about what we're doing here. The ability to show up for your kids if your kids have something in the middle of the day. You know, the ability to blow off for a long weekend just because you feel like exploring or going for a hike or, you know, visiting that town you've always wanted to visit. So I don't know. That's
a way that I become a lot more self-aware of this is every night before I go to sleep, me and my wife will say, what was your favorite part of the day? And it makes you really think back at the day and say, well, where was I the happiest? At what point of today was I the most excited? Maybe it was something at work. Maybe we launched something and I was just so happy about that. And that was the favorite part of my day. It could be a meal that we ate. Hey, lunch was so good today. Wasn't that great? That was the favorite part of the day. And every single day we identify what the favorite part of the day is. And sometimes it's a little pathetic. Right? I hate when I'm laying in bed and I say, you know what? My favorite part of the day was when I laid on the couch at 10 o'clock at night, right? Essentially being happy that the day was over. That to me was a fail of a day, because like you're basically being happy that the day is over. So doing this every single day makes you very self-aware of where that happiness comes from. And you'll find that it really makes you appreciate what you did during that day. Sometimes you forget it, right? You're going to sleep and you don't even remember something really great that happened, even if it was a tiny thing. So it really keeps you aware of that. And yeah, you can measure that over time. If you're finding that every day for a month, your favorite part of the day is when the day is over, you're probably doing something wrong. Yeah. You probably have to make a significant change in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to me. And we're going to have an episode about happiness and feeling fulfilled in work. So I don't want to fire off all our best bullets in this episode here. But I do think it's interesting to conceptualize it that way. And this is probably a couple years ago, was sitting around a group, this is for sure pre-COVID, and we're sitting around at just like a bar hanging out, and it's just like a bitch fest. And they're going around this circle talking about what they do for a living, and they're talking about their job. And it's literally like it felt like a weird, we're just going to dump. Everyone was just going around the table, almost like we were in some like Workaholics Anonymous thing. We're like, hey, I'm Ryan Mar, I hate my job kind of thing. And it was just going around the thing. And then it got to me and people were just like bitching about, I'm like, not me. I love the shit I do. I love my work. I love the stuff. And this was even before I was elbows deep in Webflow and Finsweet. Like, this has always been important to me to do that. And it was in that moment where I decided, hey, if I ever build a business, I'm going to make sure that if my employee is sitting there or the people that work on my team are sitting there, that when that circle gets to them, they're going to break the trend. Like, that was always a thing for me to say, like, I want to be working with folks who, when they're in a scenario like that, they just say, nope, that's not me. I'm over here. And they couldn't empathize with that. Like, the folks in this group, and every single one of them had somebody else dictating to them what their time was worth, when they had to work, how they had to be productive. Like, there were all these other constraints that we take for granted, I think. And so I don't know, that was a very key moment for me in measuring what mattered in my world, especially as it relates to building in this digital space. Going back to disclaimer number 2 is that there's no rules here, And getting a bunch of good comments, Joe. So if you don't have any thoughts, we could probably jump into some of these.
I'll add one more.
Yeah.
I wrote an article kind of about that a few years ago when I almost sold Finsweet. It was an offer to buy Finsweet. I decided I didn't want to do it. And I wrote an article pretty much explaining how there are other more important aspects than just what's on the balance sheet, what's on that profit and loss statement. And those were the exact metrics that were used to identify the business. And as I was going through those numbers, I realized that this is not an accurate view of the business. And maybe there are more important things. And in that article, I listed as the happiness of the team, the happiness of me, our roadmap, what we're working on. If you were to go to Finsweet right now and take our profit and loss statement and evaluate it for a buyout, it would be highly, highly, highly inaccurate. And I think a lot of that comes from the culture and the team and what's on that roadmap with the team that's working on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff is so important. That measuring that to me is just incredibly more important than the monthly recurring revenue, the annual recurring revenue.
Right. And they're intangible things, right? Like, there's no way for somebody from the outside looking at that, let's say they're looking at that balance sheet, Joe, to continue on your analysis of the Finsweet P&L, and they're looking at like half the team doing non-revenue generating work in this community, and they'd be like, what the hell is this? Like, just cut that whole department off and now we'll double profits, And it's like, well, yeah, but in another year or two, when all those things mature, you'll never, like, that's a fruit tree. What you're talking about cutting down is a fruit tree, and we live off of fruit. So yeah, maybe the fruit's not in the basket right now, so we can't count those fruit, but we know the ground is fertile and we're planting a forest, and soon enough, we're going to be able to eat from that forest everything we want to eat. So it's like, how do you measure that stuff, right? And this is where it goes back to like, and what are the OKRs that you have to do to like somehow conceptualize a business that doesn't exist in an industry that's just being born? You can't do that, right? You can set systems and processes for a lot of things, right? And you would just want to repeat the things, but to do the things that are scalable, sometimes you have to like find ways to do things that are not scalable in interesting and unique ways. And then inside of that process, you find like, oh, that's a cool product. We can make that something, And then you're like, oh shit, we've been beating our head against this thing for a long time, but look where this thing came out. And it's hard to quantify that activity all along the way. And so that's why, I don't know, saying it again, money is not the only metric. Zach says it here, 100% agree. Money is only a piece of the success pie.
Yep. It's important.
Yeah.
It allows you to have success in other fields, but it's not the only thing. It's not the most important thing for a lot of people.
Dale's got a good way of looking at it here.
Financially, it's sustainable income. Professionally, I measure the percentage of client work that I want to do versus what I think I need to do. Nice, Dale. That's a very, very personal metric there. I like it. Jen, feeling definitely. Like how was the day, and is this still cool work?
Yeah.
Yes. Do I like what I'm doing? Do I enjoy what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Of course.
The thing is too, you can also get caught up in that. Like, it has to feel good. This is where we get into trouble, where it's like the first 80% of a project is great and exciting, and then the last 20% you're like, yeah, So sometimes you do have to push through, oh, this isn't cool, or this isn't super fun, or like maybe I'm not in the right mood. So Eric's saying mood and time tracking are super important for me in managing my mental health. For sure. We just did an episode on mental health. We talked about the, finding balance and all of this. But sometimes, showing up on those days, like this is the difference between being an amateur and a pro, right? The amateur will take the day off. The pro shows up even in spite of maybe being not in the perfect mood, or knows how to get into that mood. So that's not to say that you can't take the day off, or that you can't just say, hey, I'm going to step away from this. But more often than not, the people who are going to be consistently successful are the folks that find ways to show up in spite of, a lot of those things. Yeah.
Livable income and some quality time with the toddler is my key metrics. Nice, Mackie.
Yeah.
This is great. So livable income, enough money where I don't have to worry about money. I don't need a Porsche, but I don't want to be worried about money every day. Just enough to live, and then to spend that time with the toddler. Love it.
Just a good question from Ferdy saying, how do you measure your progress to become a Webflow Pro? I guess, are you able to shift your income to working with Webflow, right? So like, are you making money from using this tool or not? There's a lot of people who get caught up in Webflow because they finally unlock this creative part of themselves. And I for sure was a victim of this early on, where you're just like so enamored with the ability now to express yourself in a design context, like online, that you can just build anything. You're like, oh my God. So people get wrapped up in just doing that, and they never go out and sell a product, or they never go sell themselves. They never actually go get paid. So if you're looking to make your transition into becoming a Webflow Pro and tracking that progress, what I would say is, where's your revenue coming from? Are you making more revenue this month from last month from activities related to Webflow? And that would be the goal. And then once you get to the point where you're, can start replacing meaningful sources of income on the other side, now you're on your way to becoming a Webflow Pro. So, and if you want to do that, shameless plug, become an effing pro. You've got 1 day left to lock in this lifetime pricing. Otherwise, it's going to go up. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming now.
And yeah, that's a great way to think about becoming a Webflow Pro on a professional level, where someone asks you, what do you do for work? And you say, I make websites. Mm-hmm. I build Webflow sites. You can also look at it. Maybe you're already doing that, right? Maybe already Webflow is your primary source, but you want to be top quality, the top level. I think that is measured in working in the projects that you consider top quality and top level. So maybe you look at this site from the SaaS company and say, I want to build this. I want to be hired to build this. I want to be qualified to build this. And I want this type of client to be happy when I build this. And that is another measurement of how you can say, I do websites full time, but now I consider myself a pro because this website's a pro and this client's a pro to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Brianna is saying, I'm always in survival mode, so this is a hard question for me. And a lot of times that's business survival mode, and sometimes that's other survival modes. I read a tweet from Brianna that I won't share, but I guess she's dealing with some chemotherapy, and so like sometimes shit's a little harder than just building websites. So some of us have different things to measure, right? Like, am I happy today in general? Am I, like working towards longevity and other things? So yeah, this is one of those cool industries that allows people to make money and play in a space, again, regardless of a lot of other things, right? There's lots of industries where, if you're going to be a welder, you kind of have to show up at the job to weld the thing. It's hard to be a remote welder. Whereas what we do allows us to kind of generate income from wherever we are. And a lot of times, regardless of, our mobility and other things. And so this is something that is useful in this space. And so, just finding ways to survive is sometimes part of the challenge for sure. Being my own boss, Mark is saying, for 13 years has ruined me as an employee. Nothing more valuable than choice. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Let's see. Book of Beautiful Questions. Let's see. Aida saying, I ask myself this question too, Joe. When I'm the happiest? What am I doing with who, where? Right. I build my journey towards this. Great.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. You guys have already provided and continue to provide so much value for the space. In the process, you're changing the trajectory. So this must have been going back to when we're talking about valuing the different pieces of it. That's the hard thing too. And you have to look at this as investment in yourself. Like how many times are you investing in yourself by watching a video or by digging deeper into a course or by staying up late at night learning how to do that new interactive thing on Webflow or how to connect this back-end tool or whatever it is. That's an investment that, again, maybe doesn't pay dividends immediately, but maybe it pays off a year from now or 2 years from now, whatever it is. So sometimes, having that long-term outlook, and money is, again, the fuel. Arvin says it, right? It's the fuel that allows you to get to that 6 months from now or the year from now so that you can still do the things you're trying to do.
I'll give an analogy for that one. Mm-hmm. Money is like fuel. Yes. Let's imagine gas that you would put inside of your car. You have all the money to buy all the gas. But if you don't have anywhere to go in your car, all that fuel means nothing, right? You need to be able to do what you want to do and be happy with what you want to do. So maybe you have all the money in the world for the vacations and everything, but if you're not happy doing that, the fuel means nothing. So yes, it's important to do certain things, but if the happiness part of it, it's to me much more important.
Yeah. And this is a good step here. Tyler is saying measuring happiness made me shift to slow down freelancing and moved into creating digital products.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great space because you have full freedom. And you could probably ramp up the freelancing if you need to, like, let's say you want to, add an extra client or two and go a little hard next month and whatever. Or maybe the products take off. And I think that's, again, one of the flexibilities of this space. You probably don't get that flexibility, Tyler. And I know Tyler's super talented. I see him doing lots of builds for the Webflow party and stuff. You probably don't get that flexibility unless you become a master of your trade. Right? Unless you get super busy freelancing and get opportunities to kind of let your skill set shine in other unique ways. And so, again, that goes back to maybe for you measuring what matters is how much time am I going to spend working with Webflow today? How much time am I going to spend building my portfolio so that I can land the next client? How much time am I going to spend building this landing page so that when I go to launch my product, I can collect emails or take payments from folks? And so it doesn't always necessarily have to be, again, the monthly recurring revenue, which, Joe, we might want to go back to because we didn't spend the time on that I think we wanted to. So maybe that's a good place to jump off into that real quick before we get into what not to measure, whether the title of this video actually matters, and activities that you can do to help reach your goals. And then obviously the important question that we'll bring up at the end of the stream.
Yes, monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue. This is on our list of things to track. As much as we're talking about not caring about money all the time, it is a fact that you need money to continue your business. You need money to pay your rent, to buy your food. This is a fact. So you have to track it in some respect. Maybe that's once a year when you file taxes. Maybe that's a casual look in the bank account every month. But what I want to bring up is not being obsessed with it. I'm starting to see this trend, specifically on Twitter, about monthly recurring revenue. And we see now people with the profile with the little emoji squares, and they light it up all the way to the end of their goal of monthly recurring revenue. And I think that this can be unhealthy to have this as your sole primary way to track success. And that's what we're seeing a lot of people do.
It's become so trendy too.
It's so trendy. It's like super, super trendy. MRR, we see this acronym so much more than we did last year. And if that's your only source of tracking, when you get to that monthly recurring revenue, then what happens? Then you're done. Mm-hmm. Then you just raise that number again to get to the next level of monthly recurring revenue. So yes, track it. Don't be obsessed with it. Don't have that as your only source. And if you do have it as your only source, I don't think you're going to have a long, happy business.
Yeah.
maybe you'll have a long business, but you may not be happy in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And also you run into the perils of then, having a down month or two and, having to, like really eat your own, like we saw this just recently with Brett from Design Joy. We saw this big public, we're growing, the MRR is what matters, blah, blah. And then, you have a spectacular fail in public as you build in public. Now he still has a fantastic business, and I don't want to detract from what it is, but we do live in a world where it's like the bikini shot for the Instagram influencer of the tech world to share your MRR, and it'd be like some crazy number, and people are like, oh my god, and then you go viral just because of that, and so it's we've talked about money being the measurement, a measuring stick, in our modern society, and whatever you think of it, it is. And so, yeah, it becomes appealing to just look at that as the only key indicator of your success. But I would bend towards the freedom and flexibility, right? Having enough money to have the freedom and flexibility rather than having, more money than you can know what to do with, but being locked into some mechanism that generates that, now you're a slave to that structure rather than the other thing, which is the money frees you. The money gives you the tools to just go do whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Nobody's last words were, I really wish I'd made more websites. No, Roosevelt. That's funny.
Nice. Tanette has got the right advice. Dig in the stream. Start hitting the like button, everyone, for sure. Gabe was asking. Go ahead.
To that comment, nobody's last words are, I wish I made more money, right? This is a very, I can't think of a story where somebody was saying their final words and saying, I wish I made more money. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, that's just a passing thought from that comment.
WKD is saying web design dev is getting into that Wolf of Wall Street vibe. Nice. Yeah. Same thing with the health. Health is fuel. That's another example that we were going to bring up as context for how to measure what matters. Specifically, if you've been following my journey, I've started over the last 3-4 months really getting more physically active. And in the last 8-9 weeks, I've started tracking that stuff. Right. Whereas before I wasn't tracking my activity goals, my step goals, how much I was doing. And I wasn't doing much physical activity. That's why I wasn't measuring it, because you don't want to look like, it's like the money thing, right? If you're going to track money, you better at least start making some money. Otherwise, you're just tracking a flat line, and nobody likes tracking a flat line. And that was kind of my workout for a while stuff, right? I wasn't doing a lot of workout stuff. And when I did start it, I was like, hey, how can I track what I'm doing here? How can I day to day know what's actually happening? Or how do I know today I did more than yesterday, or that I'm headed in the right direction? And well, for me, that was kind of measuring that activity. And it's why I ended up getting the Apple Watch, was to measure this fitness. And measuring that fitness has really become something that's important to me through the course of the day to make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. It now becomes this map. So if I'm not like looking at these numbers or understanding like, hey, and I'm not a slave to them. I don't step on a scale every day. I only step on a scale once a month, right? And that's that high trajectory thing, so I don't want to get lost day to day. Did I lose a pound today? Did I lose half a pound? Am I lighter today or tomorrow? Because, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes, you only see the progress over a longer time, but I do track daily activity. Did I work out for X amount of time today? Did I get X number of steps in today? And so that relates very similarly back to the business. If you look at the health of your business as the health of your body and change some of that stuff out, and now you put the business stuff or the personal stuff, you can do this same thing kind of on either side. And so again, what works for you, what matters for you, the health stuff, the business stuff, whatever it is, finding those key things that help you stay accountable and reach the goals is really what matters.
I can add to the health.
Yeah.
I have some tracking around health, super, super informal, trying to eat healthier. And when you try to eat healthier, it's kind of hard to get started sometimes, right? To make that change of, hey, I'm having this really delicious sandwich, and now I'm going to replace the bread with no bread and replace this topping with no topping. So I've been doing this more and more and more, and I try to have every meal healthy, high quality. And if I don't have a healthy and high quality meal, that's like an X on the day, right? Like you kind of failed today. 2 unhealthy meals, you're done. That's like, you didn't do it correctly today. So these small little things, right? I'm not measuring calories. I don't have the Apple Watch, but just a really simple, did I eat all 3 of my meals healthy today? And I love to say that most days of the week, it's a yes. So yeah, that's something that I like to count during the day, the amount of healthy meals of my 3 to 4 meals.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that it doesn't have to be a precise system. It's just got to be something that helps keep you accountable and keeps you pulling in the right direction. This is a good one. Mark Brutus is saying again here, every time you use a class div 23, do 10 push-ups. So there it is. Every time Webflow auto generates a class name for you, you have to do 10 push-ups.
You have to do the number of the auto name div.
It's like the worst drinking game ever invented. Take a shot every time Webflow auto names your div. Okay. All right. So let's look at. Let's go back to the script here as we wrap up. Does the title matter? Okay. So the context of what the title was just talking about, do things matter? And we do. At the end of the day, the title does matter, right? Because we live in a superficial world. And so sometimes being the viral YouTuber makes it easier for you to sell more video or sell more projects, right? Sometimes, having a high like count or a high whatever is going to help you reach your goals, but not always. You don't have to be viral in order to be effective. So the title matters in the context that we're living in a world where you have to capture people's attention. You have to somehow get people to show up in order for you to like make your pitch. We talk about this in the 5 steps to every sale episodes, or every time we bring that up. Step 1 is gain my attention. Step 2 is start to tell me a story, right? Start to make that presentation, start to build my trust. And so, yes, the title matters. I don't know if it matters super specifically in this instance. We'll have to try again. I wish we could can we do like no title for a YouTube video? Maybe our title for Thursday will be no title Thursday.
Or just a period.
Yeah, right. Like that would be interesting, right? So at some level, you have to capture people's attention. You have to bring them in. We didn't talk about this, but the law of averages, right? When you know a good thing that KPIs and some of these stats are good for is looking at something that people call the law of large numbers or the law of averages. And essentially this is something very common in sales, this is very, very common in business, et cetera, where you just kind of back into your numbers. So basically the law of averages says that, let me go to my notes specifically. Where is it? Okay. Says that you should expect a predictable outcome over time if your input activities are consistent over time. Right? And so let's say you have a landing page and you know that if you drive 1,000 views to that landing page, 100 people are going to fill out your form. And out of those 100 leads, you're going to get to talk to 20 people. And out of those 20 people, you're going to generate 12 sales or whatever that is. Well, now you have a system to know kind of how your flow goes. And so let's say you want to double your sales. Well, now you have to drive double the amount of people to the top of that funnel. And so, the idea is that these will scale. And so you have to now focus on the activities to figure out how do you get more people to the top of that funnel. So if in this instance, you're talking about driving 10,000 views or 100 leads, let's say from that landing page to send those 20 proposals, well, now you have to figure out how to drive 200 leads if you want to double your sales. What does that mean? What are the activities that drives those leads now? And so now you have very specific, again, things to do to get to that desired outcome. And the law of large averages just kind of encapsulates that and says that if you have some kind of system here, right? If you have some kind of system that works, if you know what your inputs are, then you can have expected outcomes. If you increase those inputs, then you can expect a same increase in the output. And so this is something that you kind of have to pay attention to as you grow. And that's what leads to knowing what to measure. This is how you find out what things you need to keep your pulse on. And the easiest way to bump your business growth is understanding what those numbers are and figuring out, okay, now I know that if I want to double my sales, I need to generate 200 leads, or I need to generate at least more than 100, because if you're generating those 100 leads every month and you know that leads to X number of sales and you do that consistently month over month, well, what activities are you doing different this month versus last month to get to those new numbers, right? And that's how you can measure. That's how you can see the things and identify the specifics of what you need to measure. So Joe, any other thoughts there to wrap that up? And then maybe we can talk a little bit about activities, even though we've probably covered most of these.
I like some of that. I don't like some of other parts of it.
Okay.
I think it works for a lot of use cases.
Mm-hmm.
You want double the business, you double the leads. My first thought, instead of doubling the leads, is to change the process so that instead of landing 20% of your leads, you land 40% of your leads.
Correct.
Which is essentially the same thing as doubling your leads. And I guess this is the way that I have been thinking at Finsweet, because it's very hard to double your leads as somebody new in the business, right? If you're a big company, you have lots of money, you have ad spend. This is a perfect example, right? You put out a Facebook ad, $1 million Facebook ad, and you want to double the output, put $2 million in, done. It's fixed. But if you don't have $2 million and you don't have any way to double your leads, you could think, well, how do I change that process so that I can double the amount of sales while maintaining the same leads that I get?
Yep.
So there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's different use cases, different businesses, but that's how I like to think of it, at least in this business. I
think you're right in both. I think both instances are probably right. The law of large numbers and the law of averages specifically is kind of like the one thing. And so it's basically saying, hey, if you have this system and it works like this, if you increase the input, then you should increase the output. However, that doesn't mean that's the only way, right? It just means that is a way. What Joe's saying here, so there are two ways if you're in that scenario that you want to double your leads. You either double the input or you optimize the input, right? You optimize the flow. And so this is where there's two approaches to conversion rate optimization, to marketing, to advertising. You'll see this all the time, right? Some folks will just say, hey, let's just throw all the ad spend we can get. Let's do all the front of funnel activities that we can get. And let's just send as much numbers as we can to the top of the funnel so that we can double those leads. And then your conversion rate optimization person or your more technical marketer might say, hey, let's start A/B testing. Let's start tweaking the copy. Let's start, playing with little other things. And this is how you get then very specialized fields of expertise in those directions. And so, you may find it easier to fill the top of that funnel with more leads. Depends, right? You may find it easier to optimize that workflow to get to, a higher closing rate, which I agree with Joe that that's the easier route, right? Finding better ways to turn those 100 leads into more than the number of sales you started with is probably an easier route than doubling your input. But again, you don't know.
It depends on the resources.
Yeah.
It depends on the what you're doing, the business size, everything.
Right.
There's no right or wrong for that.
Correct. And that goes back to the disclaimer of just doing what it is that works for you. And so we'll wrap up the episode with just a few activities that you can do to kind of help reach those goals. Obviously, we've talked about the things you measure, but writing it down, right? Having something specific that you're targeting. That's the same thing with the fitness thing. I wasn't tracking it at first. Now I am. Now I can see a graph every day of hey, oh shit, I took it a little slow yesterday. Let me go a little harder today. And that stuff, that's how it works. So, do you create a dashboard for this? I don't know. Are you an Airtable nut? Are you Aaron Kornblit? And, and you want to automate your entire thing so you have a beautiful Airtable dashboard so that at a glance you can see all your KPIs and OKRs? Cool. That's for you maybe. Do you need to put stuff in your calendar? Do you need to block out time specifically for some of these activities so that they're getting done every time? Maybe that's something for you. So I don't know. Create some kind of system or use a tool. Find a group, become an FM Pro and join one of our accountability groups. Again, the pricing goes up at the end of the day.
On fire.
That's right, man. He's going at it today, y'all. It's the last day. I got to sneak him in there as often as we can. So
Nice.
Any other final thoughts there on activities or any wrapping thoughts as we get into this? And we'll just address the last few comments after that.
I'll close that up with, it's okay to be simple. It's okay to really have a simple outlook on that. And I'll go back to my eating example. It's just as simple. Did I eat all of my meals healthy today? Yes or no? It's something I could think of and I have access to instantly when I think about it. And it's so simple. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. So you can have simple things that you track. It doesn't have to be these complex things and these number focused things.
Yeah.
But nice. It also can be.
Yep. Great.
Cool.
Okay. That's all we got for the show notes today. Let's see if there's anything coming in the Patrick, how dare you? Says he's sorry he's late. I don't know if we'll accept that. You gotta go stand in the corner. I need exclusive Finsweet Pro stickers on my Mac. Yeah, some Finsweet stickers would rock. I would like some Finsweet stickers too. Maybe for the upcoming merch store with the website redesign. We do have a merch store if you want to check that out. It's in the description. You can check that out. I don't think there's stickers on there, but there are shirts and different things.
We have Tanette. Will you share the Will you share the item you said you'd share at the end of the stream?
Yeah, we probably should do that. We did have a very important question that we needed to ask the community. And it came up on the stream Monday, and it's come up again on Twitter here. And it seems like the crazy folks have it. The crazy folks are in the lead right now, y'all. So here's the question at hand. This also probably needs to be shared in the comments. Let's make sure that gets shared in the comments here. Actually, I'm going to post it right here. Would y'all please bring some sanity to this, or let me know in the comments, am I out of my mind here? You know? Joe, what do you think? What's your vote? Do you like pineapple on pizza? Are you a Hawaiian person, or are you normal?
Well, I would never order the Hawaiian pizza. If I'm getting pizza and there's more than one option, I'm not ordering it. But if it's served to me, if I have it, I will gladly enjoy it.
Got it.
It's a weird topping, but I think if you add the right things in addition to it, it can totally work. Also, I want a little bit more of a dehydrated pineapple. If it's like really wet and you bite into this and like it's just water inside that contents, it could be a little too much, but I think it can work. Yeah. I'm very open to weird things with food.
All right. Well, if you're still hanging with us at this point, go over to Twitter. And first of all, if you're not on Twitter, I don't even know what you're doing, and you're in this community, just do that. Go say hi to us on Twitter. Tag us. Say hello. Hey, found you on the stream. What's up? We'll give you a nice Webflow welcome to the Twitter world. But also, you can leave your thoughts on that post, because honestly, I can't believe the Hawaiian pizza folks are winning this. This is like, I'm gonna have to reconsider all of my Twitter friends. To be honest, I'm gonna have to start blocking folks. This just means I have to start blocking folks on Twitter is all.
What's the big problem?
I don't know. I just don't like. I love pineapple. Like, pineapple's literally one of my favorite fruits, and pizza is one of my favorite foods. I just don't want them together. I would love to have a sliced pineapple, fresh, cool, and then pizza like at the same time. Great. I could like have a slice of pizza and I'll enjoy some pineapple either right before or right after. But I don't want to take a pineapple and a piece of pizza and take bites of them at the same time. That's just not supposed to happen in my mind. It's not acceptable.
Even let's say we're mixing in a little bit of chopped bacon. We're adding, we have maybe some pepperoni on there.
Yeah.
You add that salt into it. I think it really can work.
Tacos al pastor in Mexico have pineapple. I know, but not mine.
There we go.
Not mine. They just not mine. And I love tacos al pastor. This is like one of my favorite tacos. But yeah, no. The only time, and even then, I don't want the pineapple. Like, my mom makes a nice like spiced ham, baked ham kind of thing, and she'll put some pineapples on the edges with like the cherries and whatever. I don't want those pineapples. I do like the little bit of sweetness that they bring to the ham as a finished product, especially on the exterior glaze. I don't want to eat the pineapples. I want to eat the ham, with a little bit of pineapple on it. Yeah, Rahul is saying, yeah, see, he gets it. Tomato is a fruit. Tomato sauce is fruit sauce. That's it. Juan Cardona's got the logic figured out.
I think one of these streams, we should feature a nice. I'm going to feature a nice pineapple pizza. I'll make one, take some photos, and share it on that thread.
Daniel's saying, can't believe we're still having this conversation. That's right. Jalapeno is good on pretty much everything. Pretty much.
Pineapple.
No. Pineapple on pizza is like saying Squarespace is a Webflow competitor. There you go. See? Who do we have to definitely follow on Twitter? There's only 2 people. Well, 3. Joe, myself, and Finsweet. That's it. Nobody else is relevant on Twitter. We need 3 followers. And if you have more than 3 followers in your account, then we're going to ignore you anyway. So how are there only 60 likes on this video, y'all? I told y'all they hate us unless we tell them, unless we like shame them, Joe. They just don't do it. I want Joe's taco recipe. Nice. Oh man, I'm late, but okay. All right. We're losing them. Okay. I think there's a Webflow show or something happening today. I think they got, who is it? They told me this yesterday. Let me see. With Matt. That's right. Matt Varzi. So jump off of here. Let's all go over there and jump. Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, go get on that Webflow show, or I think that's what they call it. The Webflow show on Twitter. Melissa, Grace, and Keith will be talking to Matt Varzi from 80/20. So if you're looking for more Webflow community, nonstop action, you know where to find it. Finsweet Live. We were joking around about 6 months from now, we'll be like 24/7 ESPN sports coverage of just Webflow. It'll be like Webflow specific 24/7 channel.
Well, this week we have 4 live streams. That's a record.
Yeah.
We should just go live for 5 minutes on Wednesdays so we can say we have 5.
Yeah. If you have an event or something Friday and you want it streamed, let's do it. We'll go for a 5-piece this week. Christian Schmidt is saying, yeah, Friday product updates. Join us for the stream. Yep, first Friday. Every first Friday of the month now, we will do this stream with Alex Iglesias. And, you know, shout out to Joe not freezing today, by the way. Can we throw some love at that? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we figured out the situation there. And so, yeah, happy streaming. We'll leave all the mistakes to Rymar on the intros. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, and more, you know, like as we move forward more frequently than that. So pretty soon you're just going to have to make way more money on Webflow so you can just hang out with us all day during the day. So catch you later. That's it. Any final thoughts, Joe? This is over.
That's it.
All right.
It.
Bye,
See
everyone.
you soon. Thanks.
See ya.